Hey, I'm Andy Grammer, and I am this week's Man of the Hour.
Andy, your background looks much better than mine, dude. You
Oh
got the
man, we had to shift it up, dude. This quarantine thing happened. We turned ourselves into like it's a recording studio, but also a little bit of a television studio.
as it should, man. You got
Yeah,
TikTok challenges and everything coming out
you
now.
know,
I mean, right? It's
yeah,
all about the content.
of course.
Andy, you know what? I don't have you for long. We're used to having guys for about an hour for the men of the hour. I want to start with your
Cool.
optimistic personality, buddy. I love your music. We all love your music, but you have been somebody that I think everybody looks at in light of almost any situation and can go, you know what? That guy's always so happy when he's writing the music. So I want to open up with a quick quote, right? To
Yeah.
quote the Andy Grimmer.
Oh
You
my
did
goodness.
once say, my ultimate goal is to try to be real. It just so happens that I'm usually more happy than sad when I'm writing. And in general, I think that life is pretty great and it's cool to be here. So that comes through in my music. I
Yeah.
don't have a dismal outlook. But I don't aim to make positive music. It is who I am.
Yeah.
Break that down for us, buddy.
Yeah. I think that there's ways to look at life. Like even when something goes wrong, the question is what do you see the purpose of it being? If something goes wrong and you just think like, oh, it just sucks, that's one way to look at it. If you think that, like going to the gym, you are things that are difficult are there to make you stronger, then that's like a different way of looking at life. So in general, I see struggle as making you better, and that is, I think, a grounded optimism.
Grounded optimism. And have you seen that play out in your music as well in terms of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't have that, it's really hard to do anything because life
That's
is
true.
freaking hard, you know?
Yeah.
So without an outlook like that, I don't know how you keep going, to be honest. Some people do, I guess, but I don't know.
Yeah. And I used to always think it's like, well, life's unexpected challenges are what make it so difficult. And I think people don't know how to necessarily combat those, right? Or how to deal with them. How do you deal with things that are so uncertain, Andy?
Um, I like to like consistently reset and just remember that like I think that's the point of being here, like alive, is to grow. So when things get thrown at you, I think that's the whole point. I think sometimes we have this idea in our brain that there is another version of this life where that doesn't happen to you. Like if you're having trouble at work or something, a lot of time what you're comparing it to some other imaginary work situation where there is not this happening, but it's like that's definitely happening there too. Like this is just life. Life is hard, and by getting through it, we become who we want to become, and seeing life that way is really the only possible way to keep going. I think. Yeah.
Says the mature man himself. Do you think we overcomplicate life, Andy? I've always wanted to ask you this because I'm like, you know what? As optimists, that in the LinkedIn or not LinkedIn, I was gonna say the Instagram bio for myself. I was like, I like that term optimist for someone who just sees life a little bit more positively, as
Mm.
we all deserve to, like you had said. But do you think we overcomplicate it to some extent when thinking about, the challenges and how we should be dealing with them?
Do we overcomplicate life? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to the simple stuff. I think that's what this COVID situation did for everybody. It's like a real hard pause on everything, and you got to kind of reassess: am I living this way? Like, am I living the way I want to live? And I think that's been a gift, is to go simplify for a second and put yourself back together exactly the way you want. That's a real gift.
Mm, you're a gift. And to your two daughters too, I want to bring up Father's Day. We're right around the corner, man. That's something else, right? And I think that people go into parenthood or for you, for men, fatherhood, thinking that it's supposed to be a certain way. Have you kind of found out that it's better to kind of enjoy the process of building what fatherhood looks like for you independently over the years?
Fatherhood is amazing. I think it's the way that I describe fatherhood is like before fatherhood, my life, if the worst day was a 1 and the best day was a 10, a year of my life you'd hit 1 or 10, I don't know, maybe 3 times each, and most of the time spend your days in between like 6 and 8 if you're lucky. And then with fatherhood, it's only ones and tens all day long. It's super intense and it's amazing, and then it's like super frustrating and it's awesome. It's just like a more aggressive way to live life, which I'm into. It's really great.
What do you think your daughters will have to say about you in a decade's time from now as to how you raised them?
I would hope that they'd say that I was fun and strict and spiritual.
Those are three very different things,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I
But I
think I'm
think
like really fun. And then they also know that on important, serious stuff, I'm like a brick wall. And then always trying to point them up towards something spiritual.
and then that leads me to my next point, which is like for upcoming dads, I think there's a lot of anxiety with it. If my brother's tuning in, he just announced he's going to have a kid in about what 6 months from now. I mean, where does that start in terms of what you would begin to tell someone who's about to have a child?
So I love this. I tell people this all the time is that you've been alive for a long time. You've met a lot of incredible people. You've had a great time and been like, oh my God, I love this person or I love this person. And until you've had a kid, you haven't met your favorite person. So that alone is like the reason. You haven't met your favorite person yet. Yeah.
I love it, Andy. What about so I mean, listen, I think that people look at you all the time and they're like, "Oh, well, you know, he could be seen as a poster child, as someone who writes music and sings and is always smiling and super optimistic." But when you're not around people, I could also imagine that you have to, I mean, you said it earlier, you do reset in some sense. You know, so what does that resetting process really do for you so that you can keep outward facing all of that positive energy for people?
I mean, it's been just a really big reset this year where I haven't been able to tour and be out and gotten to do a lot of kind of internal work that doesn't happen when you have to be on a plane every day. So I've appreciated the self-reflection and the journey inside when usually what I do is travel around outside. So it's been a good reset for me.
And I'd say too, I mean, we always go into like reset mode at some point, you know, but to have it for an entire year, that could be a lot for some people. And I think sitting still was a lot of that. And I've often thought to myself, like, you know what, if we all sit still and get a little anxious, sometimes it's a good thing, but people were getting uber anxious, right? So when
Yeah.
dealing with anxiety and like maybe allowing music to be somewhat of a therapy to that, do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we're actually doing, especially with kids too, is that the kids have been forced to stay either just at home, which is really hard. And I've watched my kids as well. And I've had a lot of fun with them and been with them, but for a year, that's a long time to not be around other kids. And so, one of the things that we've gotten to do, I actually have been partnered with Quaker Chewy to try to, because now like kids are a little bit more able to go out. So they're actually able to go to summer camp this year. And so we've been trying to they came to me and said, do you want to help with this campaign of getting more kids out to be around each other and to get to go to summer camp? And I was like, I'm super in on that. Let's do that.
What's that going to look like? I keep thinking like 4-H or YMCA camps and stuff.
Yeah. So really what we're doing is we're writing a song about summer camp and having everybody send in lyrics so it can be like a collaboration. And for every lyric that people send in, Quaker Chew is going to donate $1 to the American Camp Association. So we're going to write a song, raise money to send kids to camp. And then with that money, the American Camp Association will actually be the ones that send kids who might not otherwise be able to go to camp to go do it. So it's going to be really, really cool. I get to do it with my daughter. We're going to, compile all the lyrics. She's going to be with me. We'll put it all together. And, it's like to what you're talking about, it's been really hard to be closed in. And so this summer, more than ever, it's important that people get together.
Yeah. And I like the idea that there's like so much positivity around getting people back together. Do you remember at some point it was like, no, everybody stay away from each other. Don't go
Yeah.
back to normal yet.
Yeah.
And I think things like this will allow that to kind of happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's sweet.
Wow. And you said your daughter's going to write it with you. You think she's going to be an
Yes.
artist when she grows up, Andy?
I don't know if she's gonna be an artist, but we sing and we make up songs all day long around the house, and
Yeah.
to get her to eat her food and to get bath time and just like to kill the time on a long drive. So it will be right in our wheelhouse for sure.
Did you imagine a creative family? I think growing up, I mean, because I'm not a creative musician, but if I would imagine someone who's in that music world, it's like you sometimes people's families are nowhere near that, right? They're educators or policemen or outside
Yeah.
of the industry. But for you, do you kind of envision maybe that happening for you guys?
Yeah, it's really funny that each household, I'm sure, is extremely different. And
Mm,
ours, my wife is an incredible songwriter as well. So we're just
yep.
kind of always singing and rhyming and working on stuff. And so the little girls, they pick it up pretty quick.
I love that. More about Chewy really quickly. I feel like with the summer camp idea, I mean, what do you hope for? I mean, one thing is definitely getting kids to go to camp when they weren't going to be able to otherwise,
Yeah, and then
you
also
know.
maybe fostering some songwriting in the home. It's really cool. So if parents can get with your kid and send in a lyrics, write something that rhymes or whatever summer camp means to you. Again, send it to
Yeah.
chewycamptrack.com. Go there and you'll learn all about it.
I don't think you can say that 3 times fast.
Yeah,
Chewy
right.
camp track. I'm not even gonna try it, Andy. Maybe we could sing it 3 times. Wait, what about your upbringing? I feel like when people are growing up, they have to reflect sometimes on how their parents were to them.
Yeah.
How do you feel like your parents played an influence to how you're growing your two beautiful daughters up now?
Yeah, well, my parents were definitely songwriters, so that kind of like was a great place to grow up to now do what I do. The same thing. It was always about like your words and what are you saying and how is it coming across and simplify the
Yeah.
message but make it interesting. And yeah, so I got a lot from them in this regard.
There's an element of like emotional intelligence, I think, that comes with that too, right? And
Yeah,
and
no,
not to say
totally.
people lack it, but I think creatives and musicians and people who are like always like dancing around or singing and stuff have a different level of that, don't you think?
Yeah, totally. It's been sweet to watch my daughters come into it.
That's so cool, man. Well, you know what? I can't thank you enough. I mean, listen, probably one of the shortest interviews we've had, but Andy, I can't thank you and your team enough for
Great,
allowing you to come onto this podcast, buddy.
great to
Everything you've
meet you,
said
man.
so
Thank
far.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andy.